Most kitchens keep at least one bottle of soy sauce nearby, yet few people pause to ask what separates a dull, sharp hit of salt from the kind of depth that lifts a simple bowl of noodles. The shelves feel familiar, the labels blend together, and habit takes over. Today we're breaking that habit the way Robert F. Kennedy Jr. likes to break down everyday choices with straight, practical clarity. We're ranking 7 of the most popular soy sauce brands in the country, from worst to best. So the next time you shop, you'll know exactly what each bottle brings to your pan or plate. Some sauces rely on rushed shortcuts. Others move through patient brewing. A few surprise you with balanced aroma and cleaner finish than their price suggests. We'll look at how each one smells, how it behaves under heat, how the sodium sits on the tongue, and how the flavor settles once served. Stay through the final pick, you'll walk away with clearer standards and maybe a better bowl of fried rice waiting for you later. Uno la Choy. The bottom of our list, unfortunately, is one of the most widely used soy sauces in the United States. La Choy appears in many households because it is easy to find and simple to use. The bottle keeps well, the flavor stays steady on the shelf, and the price makes it an uncomplicated choice for everyday cooking. Those qualities give it a place in busy kitchens that only need a quick note of salt. Once the focus moves from practicality to flavor, the picture changes. A closer look at the aroma shows the first shift. A sharp, pointed scent rises immediately, carrying a faint chemical edge that overshadows anything warm or rounded. The surface color leans toward a lighter reddish tone instead of the deeper brown associated with sauces shaped by longer aging. On the tongue, the taste arrives in a fast spike of salinity followed by a thin sweetness from added syrup. The center feels hollow, as if the elements stand apart instead of forming a unified line of flavor. The contrast becomes clearer beside a naturally brewed sauce. Fermented soy sauce opens with a slow, richer aroma built through months of interaction between grains, salt, and living cultures. The flavor develops in controlled steps, a roasted note at the front, a soft sweetness in the middle, and a gentle finish that spreads without leaving any harsh glare. Heat reinforces those layers, deepening each stage. La Choy moves the opposite way under heat, losing what little roundness it begins with. This difference starts at the method. Traditional sauce relies on stages of soaking, culturing, and patient fermentation, which allow time to build aroma and complexity. La Choy shortens the entire process by breaking soy protein down with acid. The quicker path lowers cost and increases output, yet it cannot form the depth that slow fermentation creates. Additives supply color and stability, but they cannot create the natural transitions found in sauces that age over months. Even with these limits, La Choy continues to hold a strong position across the country. Price remains the biggest factor. It sits comfortably for families trying to stretch grocery spending. The reach of large supermarkets reinforces that advantage. Nearly every major chain stocks it, while many slow-brewed options appear only in selected aisles or specialty stores. Familiarity plays a part as well. Generations of marketing have guided American home cooking toward this flavor profile, making it feel like the standard version of soy sauce. Once a taste becomes part of routine meals, adjusting to a deeper, more layered option takes time. Another reason for its staying power is predictability. La Choy behaves the same way in marinades, stir-fries, glazes, or quick sauces. It does not develop further in the bottle. It does not shift with heat. It stays steady even if the flavor lacks nuance. For cooks who value consistency over variation, that steadiness brings comfort. Still, that steadiness cannot move it past the last spot. The narrow flavor range, the fast production method, and the thin finish keep it grounded at the bottom of this ranking. The sauce ahead of it improves on some of these points, yet still carries enough issues to remain far from the top. 2 Trader Joe's Reduced Sodium. A reduced sodium formula often begins with a good intention, and Trader Joe's followed that path when shaping this bottle. The idea of easing salt while keeping basic usability gives it a small advantage over the harsher shortcuts found at the bottom of this ranking. Its base feels a touch steadier, and the first pour carries a cleaner scent than the thin chemical edge associated with quick hydrolysis. That modest strength fades once attention moves to flavor. A bright sour note rises, first sharper than expected, leaning toward a diluted vinegar tone rather than a rounded soy aroma. The body feels uneven, as if the liquid slips across the tongue without catching any depth. A faint metallic trace sits near the edges, leaving an unsettled aftertaste that breaks apart instead of settling into a steady line. Warm dishes reveal the same pattern. Heat pulls the acidity forward and pushes the little umami. It has to the back, leaving the pan with more sharpness than structure. The difference becomes even clearer through direct experience. When used with sushi, the sauce almost overwhelmed the fish. The delicate slices softened under its acidity, losing the clean sweetness that should rise in the first seconds of chewing. Instead of lifting the rice and fish together, the sauce formed a thin, sour film that masked the gentle flavors. That single meal made the limitations far more visible than any controlled tasting the sauce did not support the dish. It pulled it off balance. What makes this outcome unfortunate is the potential behind the brand. Trader Joe's built much of its early recognition by offering respectable pantry staples at accessible prices. Many of its sauces once gained quick attention for delivering decent quality without demanding specialty store budgets. The reduced sodium soy sauce was part of that push, promising something lighter, cleaner, and better suited for home cooks seeking moderation. The problem surfaced when production shifted toward faster cycles and tighter cost controls. As demand grew, subtle adjustments were made to keep pricing low and availability wide. Those adjustments changed the taste. Shorter brewing stages, altered ingredient sourcing, and a push for consistent nationwide supply widened the gap between intention and result. Each step trimmed a little more depth from the sauce, and the reduced sodium formula carried that strain more visibly than others. Sodium reduction already narrows the flavor base, so any further cuts hit harder. The final product lost the roundness that could have balanced the lower salt, leaving a profile that feels unfinished. Market pressure added another layer. As shoppers reached for lower-priced options, the push to maintain margins grew sharper. Compromises followed, from ingredient choices to fermentation shortcuts. These changes may have stabilized production, yet they weakened the identity that once helped the sauce earn trust. The early promise faded as the formula drifted further from the slow, patient methods that create richer soy sauces. The result is a bottle caught between intention and execution. It is not as blunt or chemically shaped as the sauce below it, yet it cannot rise much higher because its flavor does not hold steady under close inspection. The sour tone, the thin body, and the weak finish leave little room for appreciation. Even simple cooking tasks expose its limitations, and delicate dishes reveal them even faster. This situation reflects a broader trend in modern food. Keeping quality consistent has become harder as companies balance cost, speed, and availability. Each adjustment removes a small part of what makes a sauce worth returning to. When a bottle manages to protect its depth despite these pressures, that effort becomes something to value. Good flavor now requires more care than ever, and the sauces that preserve it deserve attention for holding the line. 3 Market Pantry, compared to Choy and the reduced sodium bottle from Trader Joe's Market Pantry, sits on a different tier. The base tastes calmer, the brewing feels more controlled, and the first scent from the bottle avoids the sharp chemical edge that sank the lowest entry. Those simple points pull it ahead of the previous 2 without much debate. That early advantage shrinks once you focus on how it actually behaves. The aroma rises in a faint, dusty way, as if the soy never had enough time to form a clear character. The first sip lands straight and narrow, leaning toward salt, before fading almost immediately. Nothing unpleasant shows up, but nothing memorable appears either. The middle stays loose, offering no roasted hint or sweetness to shape the line of flavor. The finish slips away so quickly that it leaves no anchor for the next bite. Warm dishes follow the same path. Heat spreads the salt but never unlocks deeper notes or richer color. The sauce stays mild to the point of disappearing. These limits do not come from broken technique. Market Pantry uses a brewed method, and the production line behind it works as intended. The gap sits deeper than the process. The sauce tastes like a product shaped for scale, not shaped for meaning. Even when the steps are correct, the foundation lacks the long sensory understanding that defines real soy sauce. You notice this more clearly when you speak with people who grew up around it. One of those conversations stays with me. I once asked an older Asian chef, a woman who had cooked in restaurants and home kitchens for decades, what she looks for in soy sauce. She didn't answer with theory. She reached for a bottle she trusted, opened it, and let me smell it first. "You should feel the grain before the salt," she said. Then she dipped a chopstick, placed 1 drop on my tongue, and added, "A good sauce comes in slowly, then grows." Her tone was matter-of-fact, not nostalgic. She had learned this from the women before her, and it was clear she expected soy sauce to follow certain rhythms. When she tried Market Pantry, she paused, gave a polite nod, and said, "It works for cooking fast meals. It does not carry the heart of the bean." Her comment captured the main issue. Market Pantry tries, and that effort is easy to see. The pricing aims to keep things accessible. The bottle sits in every Target store ready for any weeknight dinner. The flavor avoids harsh shortcuts. Those choices matter, and they give the sauce a place in basic home cooking. For fried rice noodles or quick marinades, it performs its job without distracting from the dish. The struggle begins when the dish needs more than function. Raw fish needs a drop that lifts its sweetness. Soft tofu needs a sauce that settles gently before spreading wider. A simple broth needs something that slips into the background while adding depth. Market Pantry cannot provide those moments. It adds salt, holds the texture together, and stops there. That limitation becomes very clear when you compare it to sauces shaped through long fermentation and generational practice. This reflects a broader challenge across mass-market condiments. Brands must balance cost, speed, and steady supply. Each adjustment trims a little nuance from the product. Market Pantry follows that pattern. It aims for reliability, not transformation. That target is reasonable for a store brand, but it keeps the sauce from rising beyond the middle. The result is a bottle that stands above the two before it, while still living far from the upper range. It handles daily cooking with no trouble, yet it cannot elevate a delicate dish or leave a lasting impression. If you want something simple and steady, it does the job. If you want a single drop to sharpen a slice of fish or deepen a quiet broth, this bottle cannot take you there. Fourthly, Kum Kee. Moving into the middle of this ranking brings us to the sauces that stand well above the earlier entries, yet do not quite reach the refinement of the upper tier. They perform reliably taste-balanced and rarely disappoint, but a certain sharpness of identity is missing. Kum Kee Premium represents that point clearly. Its strengths show themselves quickly. The scent rises with a fuller weight than the bottles before it, carrying a warm, rounded note that hints at deeper brewing. The first taste feels firmer with a steady line of savoriness that holds its shape instead of collapsing into salt. The texture sits closer to a classic table soy sauce, coating food more evenly and leaving a mild echo on the tongue. Stir it into a pan and the aroma thickens rather than fading, giving vegetables and meats a more confident base to lean on. For anyone who enjoys soy sauce as an everyday seasoning, this bottle makes sense. It works in marinades and simple home stir-fries, and in dipping sauces with predictable strength. Its limit comes from a different place. The product does what it promises, but the heritage behind it suggests room for more. A brand with roots in Asian cooking carries an expectation for bolder expression, a sense of depth shaped by long practice and regional tradition. That expectation is not met here. The flavor plays things quietly, staying safe instead of reaching for the complexity found in sauces shaped through longer fermentation or smaller batch methods. The salt stays measured, yet the sauce holds back where it could push forward, missing the chance to deliver the confidence many Asian cooks know well. This gap becomes more noticeable when matched with dishes that rely on a stronger cultural touch. Toss it into a wok with garlic and scallions, and the sauce delivers color and salt, but stops short of giving the dish a fuller backbone. Use it with dumplings and the dip feels tidy but not particularly expressive. Pour a thin line over noodles and the flavor tightens the dish without adding the rounded warmth many traditional sauces bring forward. In broths, the contribution remains functional, never stepping into the deeper register that would echo the richness of old kitchen methods. Each application shows that the sauce performs its task, but rarely expands the dish beyond basic seasoning. The difference lies in subtle choices. Many Asian sauces carry traces of long-aging controlled bitterness, gentle sweetness, or the light smokiness that forms when soy and wheat evolve together over time. Those layers never appear here. The flavor stays direct and polite, shaped more for broad appeal than cultural authenticity. Nothing tastes off, yet nothing ventures into the complexity that often defines soy sauces from older traditions. This restraint does not make the product weak. It simply places it in a stable but limited position. Households that want something dependable will find comfort in it. Its consistency, availability, and steady umami give it enough strength to sit firmly in the middle range. But for cooks who look for something that carries ancestral influence, a sauce that shifts a stir-fry's mood or deepens a broth with one measured pour, this bottle will feel restrained. Kum Kee Premium earns its place for reliability, not expression. It is safe to use, steady on the palate, and strong enough to outperform the earlier entries. Yet it does not offer the liveliness or cultural depth that marks the sauces ranked above it. For anyone seeking the taste of Asian spirit through soy sauce, this bottle will serve the meal, but it will not guide the dish any further. Fibsanje Tamari, 6 months of fermentation and a formula built almost entirely on soybeans, give Sanjay Tamari a foundation different from the sauces below it. The darker shade hints at that time, and the thicker aroma rising from the bottle shows the work behind each batch. The first taste moves with a smoother line than the mid-tier entries, settling on the tongue with a deeper center and a slower fade. In cooking, the sauce keeps its shape holding steady heat without breaking apart or turning sharp. For everyday use, these strengths place it slightly above the bottle just behind it. The margin, however, is small. In direct comparison, the flavor does not leap forward. It stays more focused than Kum Kee, but not by a wide stretch. Both sauces offer dependable results and both build a clear base for home cooking. The difference with Sanjay comes from what stands behind the bottle rather than what appears in the first few seconds of tasting. This brand carries a long history that began in Japan more than 2 centuries ago. Its methods trace back to family practice, passing from maker to maker long before the product reached American shelves. When the company pushed into the United States, it did so in a market that rarely made room for traditional sauces shaped by time and controlled fermentation. Competition moved fast, costs sat low, and shelf space filled with bottles designed around speed. Sanjay stepped into that landscape with a slower process that demanded patience and careful technique. Establishing itself in that environment required more than a good product. Importing alone could not sustain the brand, so it built brewing facilities in the United States to secure supply and meet demand without cutting the core of its method. Building those facilities meant holding onto the long fermentation period even as the wider market leaned toward shortcuts. Every decision carried tension speed versus depth expansion versus identity adaptation versus tradition. The brand persisted through each shift in the grocery landscape, keeping the fermentation stage intact while adjusting everything around it to survive. That struggle mirrors the nature of fermented soy sauce itself. Time shapes the liquid through slow change, constant pressure, and endurance. The sauce develops by resisting the urge to move faster, growing deeper only when the process runs at its own pace. Sanjay's path in the United States followed the same pattern. It expanded gradually, one trust dish by dish, and held onto its method even when the market favored easier solutions. That consistency allowed it to keep a place in stores across the country while staying true to practices that define its identity. These choices give the brand a presence that feels stronger than its flavor alone. The taste may not outrun the top entries in this ranking, yet the line of history behind it gives the bottle a weight that many competitors cannot match. It shows what endurance looks like in a market where speed usually wins. Each batch reflects a balance between old methods and new demands, a balance that required resilience rather than reinvention. Sanjay Tamari stands here because of that resilience. It offers a clean, steady sauce suitable for daily cooking, supported by a story shaped through decades of persistence. Other bottles carry more complexity or richer layers, but few bring a narrative this grounded. The product may not reach the peak of the ranking, yet the path it traveled earns its place with certainty. 6. Kishibori Shoyu. Kishibori Shoyu enters this ranking in a scene as simple as a kitchen light over a cutting board. The cap turns the surface, catches the glow in a dark, steady sheen, and a warm scent rises in a slow, upward drift. A single drop falls onto a slice of tofu and spreads in an even circle, settling as if it already understands the shape of what it touches. The depth shows itself immediately. The aroma carries a warmth shaped by long fermentation, with a gentle earthiness that hints at wooden barrels and steady aging. The first taste moves slowly, building in clean stages instead of rushing forward. The center holds a soft, dense umami that widens across the tongue in a calm, even wave. Nothing rises too fast, nothing collapses into salt. The flavor feels arranged as though every step of its development has been measured and guarded. The method explains that composure. Kishibori Shoyu ages in old wooden barrels on Shotoshima Island, with the makers relying on natural fermentation and a small batch approach that leaves no room for shortcuts. The ingredient line stays minimal, allowing the grain and salt to speak on their own. Each batch carries traces of the barrel it rested in, giving the sauce a depth that many larger brands cannot replicate. This craftsmanship reflects a lineage that has shaped soy sauce for generations, where patience and consistency guide every part of the process. The results appear in food with almost no effort. A drizzle over warm rice gives the grains a slow, savory lift without overwhelming their softness. A thin line across grilled vegetables sets a deeper tone, turning the natural sweetness of the produce into something fuller. Even a simple broth tightens and gains body with only a small splash. Kishibori Shoyu does not fight for attention. It enhances with quiet strength. Few sauces match this level of refinement, and even fewer do so with such control. At this point, the praise deserves to run high. Kishibori Shoyu comes remarkably close to the peak of this ranking. Its flavor holds more warmth, more subtlety, and more depth than nearly any soy sauce available in common American stores. It behaves as a crafted ingredient rather than a basic seasoning carrying the type of confidence that only long practice can create. For cooks seeking a true expression of slow fermentation, this bottle feels like a masterclass in balance. Yet the same qualities that make it exceptional also limit its reach. The flavor leans heavily toward traditional Japanese profiles, shaped by a cultural rhythm that does not always blend seamlessly into everyday American cooking. Its depth works beautifully with tofu, rice, simple fish, and delicate broths, but it can feel too specific in dishes that need broader flexibility. Hearty stews, bold marinades, or quick weeknight stir-fries sometimes need a more universal approach. Kishibori Shoyu stays rooted in its heritage, and that heritage does not bend easily. Price and availability add another barrier. The sauce appears mostly in specialty stores or online, and its cost places it out of reach for many households. These factors do not diminish its quality, but they do shape where it fits in the kitchen. The product shines in precise, thoughtful cooking, not in high-volume or wide-ranging meals. Its strength lies in focus, not versatility. For that reason, Kishibori Shoyu ends this ranking in the runner-up position. It stands as one of the most refined soy sauces available, crafted with patience and shaped by a long tradition. Its excellence is undeniable, but its narrow, culturally specific profile keeps it from serving every dish in every kitchen. It remains a remarkable product, yet one best appreciated where its depth can breathe, not where universality must lead. Seitam Kikkoman. The best in this list I think you've already known is Kikkoman. The name sits in restaurants, home kitchens, and grocery aisles across the country. And there is a simple reason for that. It carries a balance that almost no other soy sauce reaches. It keeps the depth that defines Asian cooking, yet it stays open and friendly enough for Western palates that prefer clarity over intensity. That balance does not appear by accident. The brewing follows a measured sequence that never rushes any stage. Soybeans and wheat move through soaking, steaming, culturing, and months of controlled fermentation, each portion monitored, so the grain develops without collapsing into sharpness. Salt enters at a level chosen to steady the final flavor, rather than dominate it. The ingredient list stays short, letting the fermentation lead the profile instead of additives or shortcuts. Every step aims for harmony, not power. The flavor shows the effect of that discipline. The first scent has a warm, rounded tone without the sour rise found in faster sauces. On the tongue, the middle holds a calm, steady weight that sits between sweetness and savoriness. The finish moves away cleanly without leaving bitterness or heavy salt behind. Each part connects to the next without a jump. The sauce behaves like a line drawn in one confident stroke. No wobble, no extra marks, no gaps. This structure allows Kikkoman to work in almost any dish. Stir it into a pan of vegetables and the sauce firms the flavor without darkening the dish too much. Add it to marinades and it wraps around meat without flattening the herbs or spices. Slide a small amount into broth and it rounds out the liquid while keeping the surface light. Even in Western cooking, it holds steady. A glaze for roasted chicken, a base for a quick dressing, a lift for sautéed mushrooms. The sauce adapts without losing its core. Only one issue stands in its way: the price. Compared to the bottles below it, Kikkoman costs more per ounce, and that difference matters. For households watching every part of the grocery bill, the reason sits in the method. Longer fermentation demands more time, and time always pushes cost upward. Ingredient quality follows the same rule. The company keeps a tight standard across global production, using grains and seasoning chosen for consistency instead of price alone. That approach increases cost but protects the flavor from batch to batch. Distribution adds another layer. To supply so many markets while preserving quality, the brand maintains a system that requires more resources than quick processed sauces. For some shoppers, that cost becomes a barrier. A cheaper bottle seems easier to justify for quick meals or large batches. The difference becomes clearer when cooking moves into delicate territory. One spoon of Kikkoman can lift noodles, fish, tofu, grilled vegetables, or thin broth with the same smooth direction. The cheaper options can season food, but rarely with the same restraint or warmth. When viewed that way, the higher price buys versatility rather than luxury, Accepting the cost means gaining a bottle that fits into nearly every corner of the kitchen. It works with ingredients from many cultures, moves comfortably between light and heavy dishes, and gives cooks a sense of control instead of forcing them to adjust to the sauce. Few condiments manage that stability. Even fewer do it while holding on to a clear sense of heritage. Asian cooking often celebrates balance, not the middle point, but the place where contrasting elements sit together without fighting. That idea runs through broths, stir-fries, marinades, dumplings, and noodle dishes. Kikkoman reaches that point better than any sauce on this list. It respects the depth expected in Asian kitchens while offering a clarity that welcomes Western cooking styles. That ability to meet both sides without losing identity is why it stands at the very top. Soy sauce seems simple from the outside, yet every bottle in this list showed how much patience, history, and quiet work sit behind a single pour. If you stayed with us through all 7 entries, we appreciate your time and your focus. That patience mirrors the craft of soy sauce itself, and we hope this breakdown gave you a clearer sense of what you're bringing into your kitchen. If the ranking helped you choose better, even in one small way, then this video did its job. Keep your eyes open when you shop, and keep your mind sharp when you taste. A drop of soy sauce may look ordinary, but there is far more hidden beneath it culture, technique, and the choices each maker makes between speed and depth. When you understand those layers, every meal becomes easier to shape with intention.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.